Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and this is Voice of the Global South. All right then, let's get started. On the show this week, why Turkey President Recep Erdogan's stance on terrorism is a masterclass in double standards. Israel takes aim at Iran's nuclear sites, draws up a plan to launch a military strike. Will it help or hinder peace? And how some YouTubers end up breaking the law in their quest for breaking the internet. All that and much, much more coming up on Voice of the Global South. In the previous edition of the show, we told you all about how India took on both the Pakistani army and Chinese military hardware and came out on top during Operation Sindoor. That India exposed chinks in China's armor is by now well known. In this edition of the show, we focus on another country in the Global South that rushed to Pakistan's defense but without success. Turkey, or Turkey as it was known until 2022. Turkey is a transcontinental country. It is located in both Asia and Europe, but the majority of its landmass is in Asia. It's bordered by the Black Sea to the north, the Mediterranean Sea to the south, and the Aegean Sea to the west. Turkey was founded by Mustafa Kemal, also known as Ataturk or Father of the Turks, in 1923 from the remnants of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was established by Sultan Osman I in the 14th century. At its peak, it included most of southeastern Europe, parts of West Asia, North Africa, all the way to Algeria and portions of the Arabian Peninsula. The empire lasted 6 centuries before collapsing towards the end of the First World War. Turkey has seen 5 military coups in 1960, 71, 80, 97 and 2016, 2 more than Pakistan. That's not the only similarity between Turkey and Pakistan. They are both Sunni Muslim countries. There are other similarities too. Both support terrorism. I'll tell you how in just a bit. Today, Turkey is ruled by a man called Recep Erdogan. Erdogan's party won the 2002 election and formed the government in 2003. He has ruled the country ever since, first as prime minister in a parliamentary system and then as the president in a presidential form of government. So he's been in power for 22 years and counting. Turkey under Erdogan proclaimed itself to be a player to reckon with on the world stage. He wants Turks to reclaim the lost glory of the Ottoman Empire. But his actions belie his intentions, however pious they might be. Erdogan's worldview, his authoritarian grip on power, his selective embrace of Islamic or Muslim Brotherhood, his dramatic fallout with the late cleric Fethullah Gulen, and most importantly, his inconsistent, duplicitous and hypocritical stance on terrorism are all coming under fire across the world, including India. Now, Erdogan condemns terrorism when it suits him, but turns a blind eye to Pakistan's role in fostering terror groups such as the Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba that have attacked India. Erdogan's backing of Pakistan, his pledging solidarity with his so-called precious brother Shehbaz Sharif and vowing to stand by Pakistan even after the 22nd April massacre of Hindu men in Pahalgam have sparked outrage and boycott calls in India. Turkey's support to Pakistan isn't just ideological, it is also material. Pakistan used Turkish-made drones against India after India retaliated to the Pahalgam attack.
इतने बड़े पैमाने पर हवाई घुसपैठों का संभावित उद्देश्य वायु रक्षा प्रणालियों का परीक्षण करना और खुफिया जानकारी इकट्ठा करना था। ड्रोन के मलबे की फोरेंसिक जांच की जा रही है। प्रारंभिक रिपोर्ट्स से पता चलता है कि वे तुर्की के असीस गार्ड सॉन्गर ड्रोन्स हैं।
While Erdogan calls for an investigation into the Pahalgam attack, he conveniently ignores Pakistan's history of sheltering terrorists, including those who were behind the 2008 Mumbai attacks. His push for a neo-Ottoman vision to bolster Turkey's influence in the Islamic world is seen as a cynical ploy to project power even at the cost of enabling violence. Consequently, Erdogan's selective stance on terrorism has strained Turkey's ties with India and raised questions about his motives.
We expect Turkey to strongly urge Pakistan to end its support to cross-border terrorism and take credible and verifiable action against the terror ecosystem that it has harbored for decades now. And relations, as you know, are built on the basis of sensitivities to each other's concerns.
Erdogan's rhetoric on terrorism is a masterclass in double standards. He has condemned groups such as the PKK that have targeted Turkey, but when it comes to Pakistani terror groups targeting India, mum's the word. Take a look at this photograph. What do you see? Two men are seated on the floor at the feet of a third man. Now look closely. The man seated on the right is Erdogan in his younger days. This photograph must be from the 1990s. And guess who is the man at whose feet Erdogan is sitting? It's none other than Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, a former Afghan warlord, also known as the Butcher of Kabul. Here's another photograph of the two of them together. Hekmatyar spent time in Pakistan before returning to Afghanistan when the Soviet-Afghan War began in 1979. His Hizb-e-Islami organization later merged with Al-Qaeda. A U.S. scholar, Stephen Stilinsky, writes in his 2019 article, I quote, "It is important to recognize the significance of sitting at one's feet in Islamic tradition. It implies spiritual submission." A Turkish scholar, Ihsan Yilmaz, writes in this 2021 article that Erdogan gained recognition when he organized a boxing match during the visit of Hekmatyar to Turkey. It was not a one-off incident. Erdogan has retained such terror links ever since. A 2018 article published by Foreign Policy magazine in the US is titled "Turkey's Double ISIS Standard." Ankara claims to oppose the Islamic State. Its actions suggest otherwise. It says it was Turkey's actions, or perhaps the lack thereof, that helped fuel the rise of the Islamic State terror group in the 2000s. By all accounts, foreign fighters from around the globe first traveled to Turkey and then on to Iraq and Syria, where they set up the terror group. Another article published by the same magazine says, from indirect involvement with ISIS's oil trade to free press crackdowns, the latest WikiLeaks dump isn't very flattering to Erdogan or his family. The WikiLeaks documents reveal that Erdogan's son-in-law, Berat Albayrak, who was a government minister at the time, was involved in the purchase of Islamic State oil through front companies. Russia's President Vladimir Putin reiterated this charge in 2015 when he accused the Turks of being, quote-unquote, accomplices of terrorists and enabling export of oil from Islamic State territory through Turkey. A Germany-based website run by journalists who fled Erdogan's Turkey reported that in late 2013, photographs of then Prime Minister Erdogan's son Bilal meeting a suspected Al-Qaeda financier in an Istanbul hotel were leaked on the internet. What I'm getting to is this. Erdogan's overt support for Pakistan against India, particularly in the context of Jammu and Kashmir and terrorism, reveals a mix of ideological zeal, geopolitical opportunism, and troubling double standards. His worldview positions Turkey as a leader of the Islamic world, a neo-Ottoman vision that projects power across the Islamic Ummah. In Arabic, Ummah means community or nation. As a concept, it refers to the global community of Muslims who share a common faith. This ideology drives Erdogan's vocal support for Pakistan, often framed as solidarity with a Muslim brother nation against India. For instance, in recent years, Erdogan has repeatedly raised the issue of Jammu and Kashmir at international fora, such as the UN, aligning himself with Pakistan's narrative and accusing India of human rights abuses while ignoring Pakistan's own record. But look beneath the surface and you find that this rhetoric is less about genuine ideological alignment and more about countering India's rising global influence. Turkey's deepening ties with Pakistan, including military cooperation and defense deals, signal Erdogan's intent to challenge India's rise while appealing to domestic and international Islamist constituencies. Even on Jammu and Kashmir, Erdogan ignores the region's complex history and India's perspective on cross-border terrorism. By framing India as the aggressor, he sidesteps Pakistan's role in harboring terror groups such as the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which was responsible for the 2008 Mumbai massacre. This selective moralizing reveals a worldview driven more by political expediency than principle. His stance on terrorism is riddled with contradictions, and his definition of terrorism is rather elastic. He uses it to silence dissent at home, labeling journalists, academics, and political opponents as terrorists, but his own government's actions in Syria and Pakistan tell a different story. Public memory is short, and that of politicians even shorter. So let me remind all those who would care to listen about what Erdogan told Obama in 2016. There is no good terrorist or bad terrorist. Every kind of terrorism is bad. So here's the nub of the problem. Erdogan labels Kurdish groups as terrorists but ignores Pakistan-sponsored terrorism against India. He invades Syria and Iraq to beat back the Kurds who threaten Turkey, but cries foul when India takes similar action against terror groups operating from Pakistan. He champions causes such as Palestine, but remains silent on China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the real face of Erdogan. New intelligence obtained by the US suggests that Israel has drawn up a plan to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. Will Trump play along? But more importantly, will Iran sit idly by if that happens? Raghini Sudhir Chaure reports.
Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has publicly rejected US demands to end uranium enrichment. Iran's semi-official Mehr news agency quotes Khamenei as saying, "We don't wait for anyone's permission. Iran has its own methods and policies. Enrichment is not negotiable." As Iran doubles down on enrichment, which is a cornerstone of its nuclear capability, the hopes for a new nuclear accord hangs by a thread. Despite ongoing talks with US officials, mediated by Oman and scheduled to resume in Italy, there's a chilling realization settling in. Both sides are digging into their respective red lines. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has called enrichment a non-starter. Tehran says that the US demand for Iran to forego enrichment is illogical. So the question is, what happens when diplomacy meets a dead end? US intelligence sources say that Israel has a plan. Fighter jets are being prepped. live drills are underway. According to the Times of Israel newspaper, the Israeli military is preparing for a potential multi-day military campaign against Iran's nuclear infrastructure should negotiations fail. There's a narrow operational window left. If a strike must happen, it'll have to be soon. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dropped a broad hint in Jerusalem on Wednesday.
Iran remains a very serious threat to Israel. We are, of course, in full coordination with the United States. We are talking to them all the time, and we hope that if they can reach an agreement that will prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon, that means it will prevent Iran from being able to enrich uranium. If this is certainly achieved, we will of course welcome it. But in any case, the State of Israel reserves the right to defend itself against a regime that threatens to destroy us.
Reports say that Netanyahu is waiting for Trump to lose faith in the talks before launching a strike, possibly with or without Washington, D.C.'s green light. But there's a not-so-minor hitch. Israel does not have the capacity to destroy Iran's nuclear program without US assistance, and the US is not likely to help Israel carry out strikes on Iranian nuclear sites at this moment, short of some major provocation by Tehran. As tensions mount, a horrifying act of violence struck the US capital on 22nd May. 2 Israeli embassy employees were gunned down outside a museum in Washington, D.C. Eyewitnesses say the attacker shouted, "Free Palestine," as police moved in.
Last night in Washington, something horrific happened. A brutal terrorist shot in cold blood a young, beautiful couple, Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram. The terrorist who cruelly gunned them down did so for one reason and one reason alone. He wanted to kill Jews. And as he was taken away, he chanted, "Free Palestine." This is exactly the same chant we heard on October 7th.
The killings have added another layer of tension to an already strained ties between the West and the Arab world. Could this be a lone act of terror or the beginning of something different? Will it lead to a nuclear war? Back in Rome, the 5th round of indirect US-Iran nuclear talks are on a knife's edge. Mediators from Oman are trying to salvage what little goodwill remains. But with Khamenei pouring cold water on the process and Netanyahu watching with his finger on the trigger, the question on everyone's mind is this: can diplomacy survive another breakdown? Since Trump withdrew from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, Iran has ramped up uranium enrichment. While Tehran insists its nuclear program is peaceful, critics led by Israel say that the evidence points otherwise. Iran is in no mood to budge. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that these positions have been met with Iran's immediate response. Uranium enrichment is not a negotiable issue from our perspective. I have already given a clear response over the past few days, and today the leader of the Islamic Revolution has also made the position absolutely clear. So what's really at stake here? 1. A regional war that could draw in global powers. 2. Potential radioactive fallout from Israeli airstrikes. And 3. The collapse of trust in nuclear diplomacy that would probably last a generation and more. If these talks fall apart and bombs start raining, it won't just be about enrichment anymore. It'll be about survival, sovereignty, and future of nuclear restraint. Iran stands defiant, Israel stands ready, and the world holds its breath. Will peace be given a chance, or has the window already closed? And what happens to a Nobel Peace Prize for Trump? Ragini Sudhir Chore for DD India.
They call them influencers or content creators in a mad race for clicks, views, likes, shares, followers and subscribers. They do far more than just vlogging about vacations or reviewing street food. Some YouTubers are now under investigation for espionage, including one Indian vlogger who is accused of secretly working for Pakistan. What was once harmless entertainment has become a tool for espionage and hybrid warfare. Are YouTubers turning into undercover agents? Ayushi Ahuja finds out.
They say espionage is one of the oldest professions in the world, and maybe they're right. Flashback, the original spy game. Eli Cohen, no prankster, no influencer, just a man who infiltrated the highest ranks of the Syrian government in the 1960s as an Israeli spy. He wasn't filming reels, he was risking his life for real intelligence. Working for Mossad, Israel's spy agency, Cohen fed Tel Aviv crucial secrets on Syrian military operations. He came close to becoming Syria's deputy defense minister. That's how deep his cover ran. In 1965, he was caught and publicly hanged in Damascus. Not for fame, not for followers, but for national security. A man who died for his country. Nationality Israeli. Loyalty Israeli. Cut to 2025. Now we enter the digital battlefield. Once upon a time, YouTubers were harmless, armed with ring lights, B-rolls, and "What's up guys, welcome back to my channel." But today, they are crossing lines, not just legal ones, but national borders, ethical boundaries, and sometimes enemy lines. These influencers aren't just selling merch. Some of them might be selling out countries. This isn't clickbait. This is clandestine content. Welcome to the era where YouTubers are the new spies. Name Jyoti Malhotra. Nationality Indian. Profession officially a YouTuber. Allegiance allegedly Pakistan. Let that sink in. A content creator with over 377,000 followers, perfectly edited vlogs, and shiny Instagram filters. But according to Indian counter-terrorism agencies, a traitor cloaked in content. Behind the travel reels and food shots. Multiple trips to Pakistan.
तो ये हो गया भाई अपना इंडिया का बॉर्डर क्रॉस.
Footage from sensitive border zones. Selfies with Maryam Nawaz, Chief Minister of Pakistan's Punjab province, and a connection to a Pakistani official expelled after the Pulwama attack. This isn't just wanderlust, it's wireless warfare. Charges against her include espionage, links to terror networks near the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, use of encrypted communication tools, and suspicious cross-border funding. She was not alone. 12 others across northern India have also been detained, all accused of aiding Pakistan's intelligence agency, ISI. The ISI's agency of penetration is decades old. But of late, YouTubers with their GoPro cameras have become its latest catch. Her family says she's innocent. The state says she's part of a hybrid war. Not a soldier, not a diplomat, just a YouTuber, but possibly fighting for the other side. Eli Cohen died defending his country. Jyoti Malhotra allegedly used her platform to betray hers. One used secrets to save lives, the other used subscribers to possibly leak them. YouTuber, the Oxford Learners Dictionaries describe it as a person who creates or appears in videos on YouTube. Once upon a time, the word was synonymous with creativity, independence, and influence. But as the first quarter of the new millennium draws to a close, it has come to acquire a different meaning. Google defines a YouTuber as a content creator and social media influencer who uploads or creates videos. But in the real world, the line between influence and irresponsibility is getting blurred. From espionage and endangerment to harassment, YouTubers are under the scanner for wreaking havoc on societal norms and sometimes national security. You may remember Vitaly Z, the Russian YouTuber who built an empire on cringe, streaked the World Cup, interrupted the NBA Finals, climbed the Hollywood sign like a drunk Spider-Man, but in 2025, the joke stopped being funny. Location: the Philippines. What did he do? Tried to grab a gun during a live stream, harassed security, filmed illegally. It's just a prank, bro. Yeah? Tell that to a Filipino judge. Charges: assault attempt, illegal filming, harassment. Philippine officials call it deeply disrespectful and dangerous. Unlike the West, where such stunts draw fines, Southeast Asia isn't laughing. Another YouTuber from the US named Mikhailo Polyakov landed on one of the Earth's most restricted islands, the North Sentinel, on India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands in March this year, armed with a GoPro, a Diet Coke and a coconut. His mission? Viral content. The result? A prison sentence of up to 5 years. Despite a ban, Polyakov tried to connect with the Sentinelese, one of the last uncontacted tribes. He left offerings for the tribe, filmed secret footage and collected sand samples. Anthropologists and social scientists called it reckless. Others called it criminal. In the fullness of time, history may call it cultural sabotage. John Chow's is another example. Chow was an American evangelical Christian missionary who was killed by the Sentinelese tribe in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. He had traveled to the North Sentinel Island in an attempt to introduce the tribe to Christianity. From Chow's fatal attempt in 2018 to Jarava tribe exploitation videos, this isn't the first time tribal dignity has been sacrificed for views. The question is, when does curiosity turn into colonialism? Between 2021 and 2023, Indonesia faced a troubling trend. Foreign YouTubers, mostly Russian nationals living in Bali, under the label of travel creators. But behind the lens, suspicion, drone footage of restricted zones, repeated visa violations documenting government buildings and local infrastructure. Indonesian authorities feared that these so-called influencers weren't just filming, some may have been mapping. Several of them were deported. Others fled. Indonesia has since tightened its watch on foreign digital creators. A new kind of virus is spreading. With a camera in hand and a follower count in millions, an army of YouTubers is pushing the boundaries of what defines content. All for likes and shares at your expense. Jyoti Malhotra is a cautionary tale for all wannabe YouTubers. It's no longer a joke. It's not just about pranksters gone wild or content creators pushing ethical lines. It's about national security. It's about trust. It's about accountability. If you're letting someone in with a camera and 1 million subscribers, you better be sure they're not broadcasting more than just sunsets and street food. Because these days, some YouTubers aren't just influencers. They are infiltrators. And no, a subscribe button doesn't grant diplomatic immunity. Ayushi Ahuja for DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.